Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight, regular domestic travel set to resume next week. The Defense Force investigating videos making the rounds on social media. Plus, a mother of 3 pleads for help.
Our news is brought to you by Alive.
Happy with Monday and welcome to Our News. Thank you for joining us. I'm Kyle Joaquin. Regular domestic travel is set to resume on Monday, June 8th. In a statement today, the Office of the Prime Minister announced that commercial airlines are expected to take reservations beginning tomorrow. Passengers traveling from New Providence, Grand Bahama, and Bimini by aircraft, mailboat, or passenger ferry will be required to complete a standardized travel form and health form at the time of check-in. This new system takes effect immediately and replaces the assessment process that was initially put in place to accommodate inter-island travel. The statement said operational procedures to ensure physical distancing on board the aircraft and during the boarding process will be implemented. OPM urged travelers to arrive earlier than usual for check-in, as physical distancing protocols may make the check-in process a bit longer. Well, the Royal Bahamas Defense Force is looking into video and audio messages making the rounds on social media, which purport to show newly promoted Marines, among other civilians, ignoring COVID-19 assembling protocols. In a statement, the RBDF said video imagery are being investigated to ascertain if individuals recorded were actual RBDF officers. The videos in question were reportedly recorded at a recent pool party. The statement continued saying all guilty parties will be dealt with accordingly. The RBDF is also dispelling rumors that a list of rescinded RBDF promotions were related to the videos and discouraged any further circulation. Well, as the country continues its fight with the COVID-19 pandemic, one community group is expressing concern that government needs to be more involved with the community stakeholders. Berthany McDermott has more.
Bain Grantstown Advancement Association Chairman Reverend C.B. Moss says while government's response to the COVID-19 pandemic has been good from a national perspective, communities need to be more involved in their own development. He added that assistance to residents from communities like Bain and Grantstown should come from within the community.
It is fine for the Prime Minister and other national officials to hold a press conference and project certain things. But that goes only so far. We'll find out that unless you get down to the level of the community through the community leaders, primarily church leaders, civic leaders, social leaders.
Moss stressed that national leaders do not involve or engage local stakeholders as much as they should. This, he added, results in them not getting the desired results from inner-city communities. As a result, the association formed the Bain and Grantstown COVID-19 Task Force to devise ways to assist residents of the community. The task force will be focused on 3 key areas: health, social, and the economy.
We established a couple of direct telephone lines. One is for information only, general information, any information. But the more important one is for emergencies. And this is designed to address the needs of our very vulnerable sectors in Bain Grantstown, that is senior citizens and disabled.
Noting that many families are struggling to survive, Moss says they will also seek to provide basic food items for residents of the community.
We realize that many families were operating on the edge prior to this crisis. And now many of them are into survival mode. They're just trying to survive. And so we have arranged to provide basic food items for residents of our community. As a matter of fact, to date, we have distributed approximately 4,000 food parcels.
Additionally, the association intends to hold a number of initiatives to raise funds. The main event is a telethon. Accounting firm Kroll Bahamas will facilitate the donation process for the telethon.
What we're bringing to the table is really assisting the committee in terms of fiscal transparency and accountability, because we know that CB and his Beantown, Grantstown initiative, that's been the watchword, ensuring that persons are brought on board. And our firm is putting its name behind this, Kroll Bahamas, to ensure that the funds are whether through raised, whether they're through GoFundMe, whether through local accounts, transfer agencies, and all of the like. We will report back and hold the committee accountable and ensure that those funds go to where they're supposed to go.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
Effective tomorrow, a number of restrictions under the emergency orders will relax. Among them, the 24-hour curfew will be lifted, and a curfew beginning 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. Mondays to Fridays will take effect throughout the country. Weekend lockdowns will continue. However, exercise will be permitted from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. in your immediate neighborhood. Also effective tomorrow, public beaches and parks will open on all islands except Bimini, Eleuthera, Exuma, Grand Bahama, Harbor Island, New Providence, Paradise Island, and San Salvador. Worship services will also be allowed to take place in the sanctuary Saturday and Sunday from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. effective this Saturday. Graduation ceremonies, funerals, and weddings may take place with a max of 30 people. Also taking effect tomorrow, all islands except New Providence, Grand Bahama, and Bimini are to be liberalized for commercial activity. Auto parts stores may operate from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday to Friday, and financial services may operate with physical distancing from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. So far, the Bahamas has recorded 102 COVID-19 cases with 11 deaths. Well, a woman who is facing homelessness says she is struggling to find a new place to live with her 3 kids. With her story, here's Jared Higgs.
41-year-old Katrina Jolly used to have big but humble dreams.
I wanted to be like a nun.
But life came at the 1994 C.R. Walker Graduate Fast as she had her first child the year after graduating. Fast forward 25 years and she has no job and 3 kids depending on her. The youngest is just 2 years old.
I would like to see him grow up, become a nice young man, no strive to do his best.
However, Jolly admits that life hasn't been easy. An argument with her ex-boyfriend led to her having nowhere to stay. Local advocacy groups came to her aid and somebody allowed her family to stay in a room in a building. However, that arrangement is temporary.
The gentleman say he can need his building, so that make me have to think. I keep looking, mind you, I be looking, I be walking on my foot God give me. Only God knows. Who feels it knows it. I say I take it upon myself and I walk. I don't have a car, I walk. Me and my children walk and walk and walk till they say, Mommy, we tired, we thirsty, but we must do it.
The woman's plight comes as a global pandemic has seen tens of thousands of Bahamians lose their jobs and have their housing situations thrown into limbo. Besides a lack of money, Jolly's situation highlights the importance of sound, intimate relationships. A domestic disagreement saw her and her kids with nowhere to go, but she admits that she has made her fair share of mistakes.
My life is my life. I hold myself accountable for my actions. I ain't a perfect person. True, I do things myself, but I only human, and this is hurt.
Jolly says she will keep looking for a place and will continue to rely on advocacy groups for help. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jared Higgs.
Well, the COVID-19 pandemic has made life more difficult for those who have no place to call home. That's the reality for one admitted drug addict who has lived in abandoned buildings and cars until he decided to check himself in to a local rehabilitation center to ride out the COVID-19 crisis. Jasmine Brown has his story.
For the last few months, Ford has called Teen Challenge Bahamas home, as he says the pandemic has forced him to seek shelter. It's no secret that homelessness is an ongoing crisis made worse during a global health pandemic. While government officials have urged the public to stay home during the COVID-19 pandemic, there are those who have no home, like 26-year-old Winston Ford. Ford, who tried his first drug at the age of 16, has been living on the streets for longer than he can remember, shifting from abandoned home to derelict vehicles.
Basically anywhere you could find a layer, you really could sleep. Some people, you spend most days out by people's place, but when time to go to bed, you really don't have a place to stay.
In and out of rehab at Teen Challenge Bahamas for the last 4 years, the young man who is now hooked on cocaine says the COVID-19 pandemic has forced him off the streets amid a state of emergency that has seen the Minutes administration impose weekly curfews and weekend lockdowns.
Because I found out of the pandemic, I really wasn't staying nowhere properly. So instead of just living out there in the dangers, with the disease out there like that, I sought shelter, under Mr. Fox, knowing that he would help me.
Ford says despite being in and out of rehab for years and sometimes butting heads with leaders at the center, Teen Challenge has become the closest thing to a family he has had in years. That's because he says his addiction has put a strain on his relationship with his relatives.
No matter how much you try to seek forgiveness, especially for the wrong you've done, mistakes you have made in life. So sometimes for me, that was really one of the hardest things to do, to really disconnect from guaranteed support like I would thought, depending on family. When they can't help you, it's really hard, you know what I mean? Now, it's not their fault, but it's my fault.
Ford says while his story is a difficult one to tell, he knows there are many other Bahamians in his position, especially given the fact that more people are being pushed to the brink of poverty. He encouraged others in tough situations to seek help before it's too late.
Don't be ashamed to ask for help. You know what I mean? Sometimes pride and could really get in the way. That's for me. You gotta realize to put things behind you. Some things you gotta take before you could really elevate yourself in life. You know what I mean? You have to go through some stuff.
Reporting for our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Democratic National Alliance leader Orinthia Komalafe is urging Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis to be careful with words he uses to describe the Bahamas' economy to the international community, especially with the government's intention to borrow over $1.3 billion.
I think what the Prime Minister he had indicated in his address to the World Health Assembly was that COVID-19 destroyed the economy. I thought those were very strong words, and I really feel that the Prime Minister should be very careful in the words that he says to the international community, especially understanding our circumstances here financially as a nation, and especially now that we know that they're going to the international community seeking funding.
The financial expert said while there is no denying that the pandemic has drastically affected the Bahamian economy, planned borrowing must come with a strategic plan.
There's no doubt that COVID-19 has had a negative impact on the Bahamian economy and will continue to do so for some time. We do expect some contraction in the gross domestic product, which is the case globally because it's a global pandemic. But obviously, what the government in its response to COVID-19 must ensure that any borrowing that they have and any access to funds that they have is buffered by a strategic plan to get the economy back on track. All right, because there are so many, particularly the number one industry that is being negatively and adversely impacted as a result of COVID-19. So certainly we are looking forward to a plan that is going to accompany any borrowing that the government is going to be doing.
Still to come, how close is the country to making money off its airspace? Stay tuned. You're watching Our News. Welcome back. The government is in the final stages of consultancy with regards to monetizing the country's airspace, according to Aviation Minister Dionisio de Aguilar. Jerry Jubain has more.
According to de Aguilar, the government has hired a consulting firm for guidance on how to properly charge and collect fees for aircrafts wishing to utilize the Bahamas' airspace. The expected rollout date for these new charges is July 1st, according to the Aviation Minister.
What the government did was we hired a consulting firm to guide us on what to charge, how to collect. Obviously, we've never done this before. So we had to get some advice on how best to do that. That consultancy is almost at an end, and they are ready to make their recommendations. And so once we receive that recommendation, we will roll it out, a fee structure, hopefully by the 1st of July. because it takes 6 months for it to take effect.
Airlines will now have to adjust their ticket pricing, according to Diaghilev, to now accommodate the new charges. The July 1st rollout will give them 6 months to do just so. Therefore, price changes can be seen by January 2021.
So you have to advise the airline industry at least 6 months in advance before you impose a charge on them, so they can adjust their ticket prices accordingly. So even if we were to roll it out on the 1st of July, it wouldn't take effect until the 1st of January. So we're sort of heading towards that deadline. But it's very interesting, very, very fascinating, and we've done a lot of work on it, and we think that we're close to a solution on how to finally make something of our God-given airspace.
The additional funds gained from the new airspace charges will go towards improving the aviation sector, according to Diaghilev, who said the industry is in dire need of technology upgrades.
Let's put it this way. The money that you receive from that can only be used in the aviation sector. You can't use it to build prisons and schools and what have you. The aviation sector has really been starved of funds for many, many, many years. A lot of our air traffic control devices and our navigation aids have fallen into disrepair. But obviously it will be a revenue source for our aviation sector so that we can enhance the safety and oversight of the aviation sector.
Reporting for our News, I'm Georgie O'Bain.
Fidelity Group Chief Financial Officer Gowan Bo says if the Bahamas wants to be competitive internationally post-COVID-19, government must look at tax reform.
We have to look at our tax reform because our current tax system has failed us on several fronts. It has not collected sufficient taxes to allow us to balance the budget. It has not allowed us to be competitive because persons are still, if you will, blacklisting us and stopping us playing in their environment, and that's the sandbox, right? So we're playing in their sandbox, so we play by their rules. So keep crying that, oh, it's unfair. Life is unfair, and in reality, in competition, is the strongest survives.
Bo said that the Bahamas' tax structure is not competitive or equitable. He added that if the Bahamas wants new industries and opportunities, it must be in fighting mode.
If we pay now, on average, 18 to 20% of GDP to the government in revenues, theoretically, if we introduce income tax at 20% and removed all other taxes, it still would be 20%. Now, it's not as linear as that, but I think the conversation has to be demystified by saying tax reform is new and increased taxes. Tax reform is new tax structure, but the amount that we tax, it may be distributed differently. So there may be some persons who now get away with paying less taxes relative to what they earn, but it's not necessarily additional taxes being paid.
Still to come, fitness centers prepping for reopening. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Our News. As fitness centers prep for reopening, it's all about hygiene and maintaining social distancing. At Balmoral Club's Fitness Center, members will notice a number of changes.
You can wash straight to the bathroom, wash, and then as you move from machine to machine, you can sanitize in between as well.
The gym closed sign on the door of Balmoral's Fitness Center will be coming down soon as they prep for when the all clear is given to open. And according to gym manager DeKel Quant, better known as Bowflex Barbie, there will be changes.
We're going to have signage, obviously, that's going to inform our members of, you have to wash your hands as you come into the gym. We have hand sanitizers at the door as well. We're also going to add more wipe and spray bottles with disinfectant solutions around the gym as well to encourage people to, wipe the machines before and after use, wash their hands when they come in, wash their hands before they leave.
The gym is open 24 hours and is a small one centered on the Balmoral property, which Quan says will make it easier to make disinfectant and sanitizer available.
One main in the center. Our facility isn't huge, so we have one right now. We're going to add another one closer to the cardio machine on the other side of the gym. We have that in our storage locker now to put up before we reopen.
And it's not just about sanitizing. There may be some new equipment needed for your workout as well.
We're going to be encouraging people to, as much as possible, bring in their own, some of their own equipment, as far as the mat, stuff that typically you would share, and something like this, which is the bar pad that you would use for a neck cushion as you squat, or for glute thrust, or anything you do with a barbell. You need that support on your neck or on your lower body. We'd encourage people to get their own, purchase their own, instead of using the one that beforehand we may have shared. So stuff like this we would have stocked, as well as yoga mats. We'd encourage people to get their own instead of sharing and using the same ones.
For Quant, who is one of the leading personal trainers in the region, the transition to more online-led workouts hasn't been that hard.
It's been obviously a big shift. I think thankfully for me, I was online before. For the last 3 or 4 years, I've been doing stuff online, so it just was a matter of shifting everything to online. And I also had products that came out at the end of last year that are actually perfect for home workouts, so I was able to kind of push that, and that actually ended up being a really good product for this time too.
Well, as the country enters phase 3 of the government's reopening schedule, referred to by the Prime Minister as the new norm, one lifestyle coach and fitness instructor says Bahamians can look at the glass half full. Elite Wellness Solutions CEO Ethan Quant said overall wellness and peace of mind should be the goal.
I encourage our employees, I encourage the clients that I work with to really use this as an opportunity while everything is new and we're having to adjust to so many different new things. Make something else new, your health, wellness, and fitness goals, make that journey, make that a priority. And so I've been encouraging people that I come into contact with, my clients, just to use this as an opportunity while everything is new and you're having to make adjustments in any event. Just make that more of a priority.
And as Bahamians prepare for the eventual opening of beaches across the country, there are those still trying to get their summer bodies together. Quan says it should be more than just about how your body looks.
When you talk about total wellness, physical aspect is one, but then the mental and emotional is something that is not very mainstream, talked about now, but it is gaining some popularity, but it's also something that's very important. Even when you look at when I was 306 pounds, I was depressed, so I was unhealthy physically, but also emotionally and mentally. And so the thing is that when you get into physical activity and getting into fitness, it does boost your emotional state as well. And so really when you talk about total wellness, you got to put all that in the conversation as well.
And while many may have already written 2020 off and begun looking to 2021, the lifestyle coach insists there's still a whole other half of the year to get to.
Use this opportunity to reset and refocus. 2020 started out, it's been really rough, but we're getting over that hump, but we still have the rest. We still have another 6 months, 7 months in 2020. And so you really want to maximize that opportunity. So kind of take an assessment of where you are now, think about the things that you still want to accomplish and just go after it very aggressively and with intent.
Still to come, teachers at Anatol Rogers High celebrated for their work during the pandemic. Stay tuned. Staff over at Anatol Rogers High School celebrated Teachers Appreciation with a drive-through gift giving. We spoke with some of the teachers just as they were getting their packages.
I think it's a very nice gesture. We know that teachers are underpaid, underappreciated, so it's nice to know that even though you cannot pay teachers their true worth, that you're taking time just to say, give a token to them, let them know that we're thinking of you, we appreciate the hard work, and so forth.
Oh, this is a pleasure. I like to be appreciated like everybody does, and I think that this is a very noble thing that our principal and the administrators are doing on our behalf.
This is very touching. It's amazing what the school is doing. Anatol is just like that all the time, you know, showing their appreciation to teachers all along the way. I'm very encouraged, man.
The school's principal, Harcourt McCoy, says showing appreciation to the teachers was important, especially for their work after the pandemic closed schools back in March.
We sought to find a way to reward our teachers because they did so well during the virtual school project here at our school. Although the Ministry of Education had their virtual school, every department at Anatol Rogers had a virtual platform for their students. Not to mention, we had a Facebook page for all the assignments to be up. We had a hotline in the guidance department so that parents could call in and reach out to their teachers and be in contact with us. We had 3 virtual PDA meetings.
So I just want to congratulate this team, the principal and administration, the teachers, and also their able school board for this great initiative. I think it's a good example for other schools, a good example for our students to show that we appreciate our teachers, we appreciate the staff, we appreciate the administration.
Thank you for joining us for Our News tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Kyle Joaquin. Remember, you can catch Our News on the go or the Revigo Play app. Have a good Monday evening, Bahamas.